Hi, welcome back to a new video, and in this one we're actually going to be looking at two separate things. The main focus of it is going to be Harman's new film stock, Phoenix, which came out just before Christmas, and I've just got back my first roll from developing, and I've scanned it, and I just want to talk to you about my thoughts about Phoenix as a film stock. But I also need to talk to you about the camera that I used to shoot it, because it's not one that I've talked about before. So we've basically got a two-part video. First of all, a quick review of this, which is the Vivitar 35EE. So we'll kick off with the Vivitar. These are actually, if you're just starting out in film photography, this is actually a little camera I would strongly recommend. Now, first of all, it's known by a wide variety of different names, because the key one was the Casino 35EE, but it was then rebadged as an awful lot of different cameras. The Vivitar that I've got, Chinon, Argos, Prins, to name a few, basically were all rebadged versions of the Casino, and it's the Vivitar one I've got. You can normally pick them up on eBay for around about £25 to £30. I think I paid about £25 for this one. It's in a black finish, looks quite nice. They are effectively a fully automatic 35mm rangefinder camera, and it's the rangefinder bit that really appeals to me about them. So it's a nice, easy to use rangefinder camera. It's got a CDS meter built into it. It's fairly simple shutter. The shutter speeds range from about a 30th of a second up to about 1/650th, and it will run across ISO ranges 25 through to 400. So the 400 cap is arguably a little bit of a limitation in this day and age, and it will focus from about 90 centimeters up to infinity. The lens on it, again, quite a nice little lens here. We've got a 35mm f2.8 lens on here, which works extremely well. It's not the sharpest thing in the entire world, but it doesn't have any chronic issues with it, particularly for a camera that came out in the mid-70s. Obviously, no built-in flash. Does have a hot shoe for a flash if you want to pop one on there, and it does take a 625 battery in the bottom, which is needed to get it working, because the meter and the shutter are electronically controlled. Fairly simple and straightforward. Basically, it pops open at the back just by lifting up the rewind. You've got film cartridge goes in there, your shutter is just there, and your take-up spool is just there. So you just feed it through, fire, and wind on. But it's a nice, simple, easy to use, fairly compact, and most importantly cheap rangefinder camera. Would it be better if it had some semi-auto features on there, like aperture or shutter priority or even full manual? Absolutely. But for £25 odd, you really can't go wrong with one, in my opinion, if you're looking for something cheap, easy to use, rangefinder for shooting film. So yeah, that's why I picked this one up. Okay, so the main bulk of this video is about this stuff. Harman Phoenix. It's made by Ilford Harman. Because of various legal stipulations, it can't be badged under the Ilford name, but basically this is an Ilford colour film. And the interesting thing about it is a new emulsion. It's not something that Ilford Harman have basically, just re-spooled from an existing film stock. This is an emulsion they have built from the ground upwards. And as a result, it is very much described as experimental. In fact, if I just open this roll here, the blurb inside, I do need to completely take apart the packaging to show you this. Probably should have prepared one earlier. But the info inside does say that it is, I don't know if you will actually be able to read that. Oh, that's not too bad. That it is a limited edition and it is an experimental film stock, and they're going to use the money and the results from this one to iterate on it and build on it and improve it. Which is, I think, quite important and quite good in this day and age. So what we've effectively got is a 200 ASA colour negative emulsion. And the base for it, well, it's like nothing else I've seen. It's this really weird yellowy colour. And it's standard C41 development. So it basically can be developed in any colour lab. So, what was it like when I shot it? Well, obviously, when I'm shooting it, I'm not really thinking too much about the film stock, but the end results I found were... First of all, it's got incredibly strong halation, and if you're not sure what that is, halation is where point light sources or bright light sources end up with a glow around them. Normally, film stock will have an anti-halation layer on it to stop this happening, to stop this occurring. I'm fairly certain that this either has got no anti-halation layer on it or a very, very weak anti-halation layer on it, because you get halation all over the place on this, and you'll see it in a number of the shots that I've put up. That can actually be used to your benefit. It is a really noisy film for 200 ASA, without a shadow of a doubt. It's got a level of grain on there that, I'll be honest, I wouldn't expect to see even at 400 ASA. So it is a very grainy film. And overall, it has some really strong contrast and saturation on it. Now, interestingly, it also doesn't seem to have the thing that most people come to expect from negative film, particularly colour negative film, and that is a wide exposure latitude. And this stock definitely does not have that. We do not have a great deal of exposure latitude on this at all. And that's probably due to it being, quite an experimental and a new emulsion out there, but you do need to be quite careful with your exposure on this, and underexposing increases that level of grain quite significantly, so you do need to be very, very careful of that when you're shooting it. Interestingly, when you scan it, and I did my own home scanning with this, so I used a CS light as a light source, a pixelator to hold the negatives, and I then scan using my Olympus EM1 Mark II and a 30mm macro lens on there. And I can, most of the stuff that I've posted on film that you've seen has been scanned using that combination, well, certainly that camera and lens combination. And I've never had so much trouble dialing in a film stock when I'm editing it and converting it. Now, I use Negative Lav Pro to convert, which normally is a very, very straightforward process. What I found with the Phoenix is I really did need to play around with the white balance far more than I normally would do, which was quite interesting. You also, or rather I found that particularly if an area is unexposed, the dark areas, the shadow areas and the black areas in it had a massive amount of colour artefact in it. colour artifacting in it, which is really quite strange. Now, I don't know whether that's a characteristic of the film stock itself or just something weird it does when it's scanned. Now, I know I'm not alone on this, so I don't think that this is a factor of my camera and lens setup when I'm scanning, because I have seen shots that other people have taken and have used other routes for scanning, which displays exactly the same characteristic. Now, I must confess, I wasn't a big fan of that, so I found that in Lightroom, if you just max out your colour noise reduction filter, it actually cleans up really nicely, and you just get what you'd expect from a grain structure in those kind of areas. That's kind of my experience of working with and editing this, and it probably sounds like I'm actually being really negative on the film stock, and if it's come across that way, that's just me explaining what it's like to work with and what I found with it. I actually love this stuff. I genuinely do. It's so different to any other film stock I've ever shot, and I do mean that, and that includes, you know, re-spooled film stock, you know, cine film stock and stuff like that, high ISO, black and white and colour negative material, really low colour ISO, colour negative and slide stuff, you know. This is so different to anything else I've ever shot in terms of the end results you get and how you have to work with it. I really liked it. It pushes things very, very differently, and the end results are incredibly interesting. There's a shot I'm going to put up now that it was taken of a pub sign, and you've got the sky and the clouds behind it, and the clouds just look insanely dramatic. Now, this is a straight scan. All I have done in here literally is, as I say, whack that colour noise reduction up to get rid of the artifacting in the darker areas, and there's not that many in this particular shot, and just basically played around with the white balance a tiny bit. But I can assure you that in every white balance combination that I used, those clouds were that dramatic or more so. This has had no exposure change in post done on it, nothing to the light dark, anything like that. Literally, this is how it scanned and came off of the negative, with basically my pick of what my favourite white balance was for it. And it just looks incredible. It really does. And I'm then going to follow it up with another shot that I took. Now, this one I think, I'm not going to say I nailed the exposure on this, because being perfectly honest, using the Vivitar nailed the exposure on this. But this shot, the blues and the dark areas and the shadow, and with the exposure dialed in, the grain actually reduces right the way down, and I absolutely love this shot. I think this came out incredibly well. But these two images from the same roll of film are just so wildly different. I'm really enjoying playing around with this. I bought 3 rolls in total. I'm currently working through another roll on my that's in my Canon A1, and I think it'll be interesting to see how that comes out with a lot more control over the exposure, because obviously the A1 is going to give me a lot more control over that. I'm yet to decide what I'm going to stick my third and final roll in, but yeah, personally, because of its quirks and its challenges, I'm really loving Harman Phoenix. For me, it is the most interesting colour negative film. In fact, it's one of the most interesting film stocks I've shot in well over 30 years of shooting film. So I think that's saying something. So yeah, that's my quick review of a Vivitar 35EE, and a bit more time waffling on about Harman Phoenix and what I think about it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have and you've got any thoughts on it, or if you've shot Phoenix and you want to let me know what your findings were, please do pop them in the comments down below. And yeah, if you've enjoyed this, please do like the video, and if you want to see more content like this, like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye bye.